Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Chris Arnold. Man, I'm excited about this show because we love talking with students who are utilizing radio and showing you the success that they have. Again, one thing I tell you about it and what it's doing in my business, but again, proof's in the pudding when you can sit down and talk with students and just really kind of tear apart their experience with radio, what they're seeing. So if you're tuning in today, really excited about having on Charles Flaxel. Here's what radio can do for the fix and flip. Again, a lot of times people do wholesale, buy and hold. You're going to learn that Charles is a fix and flip guy, so he's utilizing radio for that. And so it's going to be interesting to look at his numbers because there's bigger pops on flips than there are wholesale. And so I think we're going to see some stronger dollar per dollar returns, et cetera. So Charles, welcome to the show, buddy. Glad to have you, man.
Hey, thanks, Chris. It's fun to be here.
Dude, for anyone that doesn't know you, like, where are you at? Where are you located? Give everybody a little bit of a nutshell of what you got going on.
Portland. So Portland, Oregon. You probably heard about us on the news. I don't live in the riot zone, so I'm safe from that stuff. But yeah, that's where we're doing most of our business. And there's what they call the Willamette Valley. So there's like a kind of an I-5 corridor from Eugene, which is like 120 miles south of Portland, and there's various cities in between. And so we're kind of working about 50 miles south of here up to the Portland and the metro area.
I like it. I like it. One about, I run a virtual staff. So actually my disposition person lives up in Oregon as well.
Oh, really?
So she's, right up there with you. Because I think she saw your name and go, hey, he's in my state. So she always updates me on what's going on up there with you guys. So pre-radio, right? You're a fix and flip guy. Everyone loves this question because everyone's looking for how to generate, distressed seller leads. You and I were talking. I was like, what are you working on in your business right now, Charles? And you're like, it's always kind of the same. It's like generating more opportunities. I've got money to buy. I've got crews ready to rehab, but I just need to pick up more flips. And so before radio, how are you trying to create opportunities?
Well, we did a couple things this year. We've done direct mail on and off in the past. Just never been a big fan of direct mail.
Why is that? It's funny you say that. I'll throw that out there. People want to know why.
You have no idea what their motivation is. And everyone tells you to do it. You got to do direct mail. And so, which postcard you choose, what size, do you do the one with the little zipper envelope, or do you do the yellow letter, or the little postcard, or the big postcard, or a picture of you or not? I mean, it's just, there's so many different things. It just makes your head want to explode. And then, you got to deal with it.
What you just described.
It's work, I know. Return mail, and then it's, then people call you up and they're, I don't want to sell my house, and why are you bothering me? And it's not the space that I want to really be in. And, we've done it, and you send messages, you send it over and over, and you got to manage the repeat mail, and then you put them on a CRM, and you got to call them, and it's just, it's not really, I guess I could hire someone to do that, but that's not my really, that's
Absolutely.
not my.
And if you're tuning in, right, and you're newer to real estate and you're like, should I do direct mail? Yes or no? Direct mail works. But what Charles and I are saying, and I completely agree with him, it's a high maintenance marketing channel. It's something that is going to require a lot of ongoing maintenance, ongoing variables, decisions. Like you said, picture of the house, not a picture of a house. Is it pink or a blue postcard? It just goes on and on. So just know it works, but it's definitely a lot of work to work that particular system. So besides direct mail, anything else you were doing to generate flip opportunities?
Well, yeah, we've been doing Google Adwords for a couple, 2.5 years or so like that. And that's been decent. It's been steady. It's expensive, but it's, it's been moving us forward. And this year we started doing some Facebook ads, and that just did not do well.
It's funny. I have not yet come across a person yet, Charles, that says that they've done well on Facebook. Again, here's what I hear on Facebook. Just for, again, you're tuning in and we want to help you guys know what we know. And, if we can help you learn from experience, it's a high volume source, meaning you're getting a ton of leads through it. But the problem is the quality is just super low. That's what we've experienced. Has that been the same for you, Charles?
They're like retail people,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen them come through there. They want more than what their house is listed for on the MLS right now. I'm like,
Yeah, I just haven't come across anyone that's had really good success with Facebook. Now, pay-per-click, Google AdWords, we do the same as you do, Charles. We utilize that source. And again, I feel like it's a good source that generates some decent opportunities. So you and I are definitely on the same page on what we've experienced around marketing. So let me ask this, like, you're doing Google AdWords, you're doing some direct mail. What caught your attention about radio? Of everything you could choose out there, why'd you go, you know what, I think this radio thing is going to be a good fit for our business?
well, I'm listening to a bigger pocket podcast, you were on with Brandon, and it just clicked, and I'm like, dude, we got to try that. It just sounds so straightforward and direct, and something that's just, turnkey, really. And so right after I heard that, I told my wife, and I'm like, we gotta give this a shot. This Chris guy's getting it done, so I think we could do it too. And so
Yeah.
sure enough, just, I don't know, from hearing the podcast to actually like getting on the air only took 6 weeks or something.
Interesting. So I want to hit on 2 points you just made there. You were talking about the ease of the management. So let's compare it to direct mail. Do you feel like you've got to do a lot of work to like maintain the radio campaign to keep it running? Or do you again, I say set it and forget it. That's my terminology, but people want to know, we're talking to a student that's utilizing it. Does it require a lot of work to keep it going, or is it set it and forget it? Your opinion.
So you like listen to those Ron Perel infomercials late at night about the little rotisserie ovens, you set it, forget it.
I've had a couple people say that, and I wasn't around when those were happening, but someone had told me like, yeah, that set it, forget it term was used for like rotisserie cookers.
It's
so
very
funny you said that. I've had a couple
seriously.
people tell me that.
Yeah, no, it is. It's totally, you just, you record, you negotiate, that's one of the points you got to do to negotiate your rates and your times and all that. But for us in our situation, that went really smoothly, which I was happy to have. And then one of the bigger challenges is recording our ad, because COVID, we were trying to figure out a space, and usually you'd go to the studio and record it. So here my wife and I jam on our walk-in closet with the iPhone, and we're trying to do our commercial, but it worked out, and went to air, and it was brilliant. We got it re-recorded. They sent a tech out, engineer out sometime in August, and we re-recorded it. So it sounds a little bit better. But
I love that you guys hid in the closet and recorded it. But hey, that's probably the quietest place in the house. So
that's what they told us to do. Yeah.
So let's go back to the statement you were talking about, the setup, right? Again, if you're listening, as we talk about radio, we want to give you every facet of it, right? So people always ask me, what's the biggest challenge with radio? It's always negotiating with the radio stations, because we're buying radio like you buy real estate at a deep discounted price. But every student has kind of differing experience, but I find more lean toward, if I ask this question, they're going to give me a 2 to 3, but let's ask you, Charles. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like radio was super hard to set up, 1 being easy, where would you have ranked it in the sense of just setting it up and negotiating? Scale 1 to 10.
Yeah, easily I'd say 2, 2.5.
Yeah. So if you've been listening to these, that's primarily the number that comes out. But occasionally we get students to go, you know what, it felt like a 7 or 8. But really, it's the only hurdle you have to get over in actually setting it up. So let's talk about success that you've seen so far. You're a fix and flip guy. You and I were talking, right? You got an ad spend of about $2,000 a month to get started. And that's what we tell everyone. It's $1,000 to $2,000 to get going. But so far, since you've been up, you launched, right at the end of June. Again, we had 4th of July, so probably not a lot happening till middle of July. But right now, you've got 2 fix and flip properties that you're working on right now that you've already picked up.
Yeah, picked up 2 deals. It was just super simple call, pick up the phone and, hey.
So let's talk about that. You and I were talking. Fix and flip versus wholesale is much different, right? Or buy and hold. Because fix and flip, we're looking for really deep discounts, right? Because we're not the end owner. So in a competition setting, if I'm going up against a wholesaler, it's going to be hard for me on the fix and flip route because they're going to pay more than me. So let me ask you this. On the 2 deals that you picked up on radio, did you have any competition?
No. Well, one of them, they just heard it and they had a bad tenant and they wanted them out, and she gave me a number and everything. That was just really a no-brainer. So there's no one else that,
Yeah, I'm calling you, here's my number, and you're like, good, I'll take it. It was just ready to go.
It was that simple. Yeah, I mean, I happen to be home, and I, always keep my phone on me. You want to answer those calls live if you can, or whoever, if you have an MBA or whoever. But just sat down, typed it in, and I'm like, look at the estimate. I'm like, 260, and she wants, 100. That's a no-brainer.
So that was easy. That was a lay down that you got on radio. And what about the other one? Did you go up against 5 or 6 other people?
Well, I didn't. I know the guy owned it free and clear, and he had a bad tenant as well. And he said he'd actually talked to another investor about 3 or 4 months ago, and I think it was 175. I think he was going to sell it for, and he's like, and he just told me like right away. It's like, I'm done with this person. Here's my bottom line, like 155. When I did my homework on it, and I'm like, well, that's a deal. It's a totally a deal. So I mean, no, not at that time. He just called. So basically, essentially, that other investor had helped me negotiate it down to, I think, that 155 from the 175.
So he pretty much teed it up for you. Absolutely.
He had. Yeah, exactly. And so he gave me bottom line. I was like, let's play ball.
And if you're tuning in and you're looking at marketing channels, and you might have a marketing channel where you feel like every time I go out to an appointment, it's me against, X amount of other investors. I can tell you that what we experience on the radio side is because we're not list dependent, we're not getting called into appointments with sellers where, they responded to postcards when they got 50 of those, right? Or they got hit with a bunch of text blasting. So the great thing about radio is primarily you're on your own when you show up at that appointment, which in Charles' case, I think is so important for his business because it allows him to get that deep discount that he needs to run a flip business, because he needs it deeper than we do on the wholesale side. And Charles, as I was just kind of listening to your business, that's why I think radio is a really good fit for someone like you, like a fix and flip person.
Right. Well, and even some of the profit margins at the end of some of these deals is still going to be better than stuff we've gotten, through our regular marketing channels, So, yeah. Hey, I mean, one of those might even push what are some of the numbers we've done in one of our best deals ever. Like 80, I think it was 83 or 85,000 or something. 83
off that radio. Yeah. So you and I were talking, you've got, over 6 figures, we'll say conservatively, and you and I were talking about the numbers, but over 100,000 on these flips that you've got running. Again, I always like to give true numbers, dollar per dollar return, right? And I always tell people for every dollar you spend, you're going to get $3 to $4 back. So in that case, in Charles' world, if he was spending $2,000, a 3 times X on that would be 6, right? 4 times would be 8,000. But you and I were doing some napkin math because you're flipping and you're pulling out such bigger profits. But what's a conservative dollar per dollar return that you're looking at potentially?
I mean, geez, right now we're looking at like $30 for every
$30. Well, I mean, that's huge. And again, we're not, if you listen in, saying that everyone gets a $30 return, but we're letting you know what's possible, particularly when Charles is in a good market, negotiate a heck of a price on radio for $2,000 for a good station that's generating call volume for him. And he's going to hit, a $30 return right off the bat and out of the gate on this thing. I mean, that's huge. You and I were talking, what we need to do now is just focus with you and help you maybe go get another station and get that call volume up even higher, which I think is great. So now that you've been running radio and you're kind of looking back a little bit, what are maybe 1 or 2 qualities that you appreciate about it versus maybe, Google AdWords or direct mail, what you've seen so far? What are you liking most as a characteristic?
Sure. Well, I know, Google AdWords is expensive for one, and you still get a number of ones. You got, more competition, pricier, and then there's still a number of tire kickers, so with the radio, it's a really focused audience, and it's less expensive, and they're motivated, and you're usually, the only guy in the room, so it's been awesome so far.
Yeah, I like that. So focused. And speak to the quality of the lead. Out of the amount of conversations you had, did you have to go through a lot of, leads via radio to get a deal, or did you find the conversion was pretty high in comparison?
It's really high. I mean, you discard the couple that were maybe didn't hear the message well, and they're like, they just listed their house and, they called you. So, you kind of push those aside. I mean, we're talking so far, the numbers are showing up to be, for the 2 of the, legitimate calls we've gotten so far, we're taking down to like 20%
Yeah.
calls.
Wow. 15 to 20%. So that means maybe you're converting 1 out of, that's 5. Let's be safe. Would you say that you're pretty confident that for every 10 calls you get off radio, that'll equal a deal?
Yeah, I mean, our number's better that, but I don't want to get too optimistic right now. Too cocky, right?
I'm beating that out as well. But yeah, people always ask, what is the quality? I think you can generate that. Charles is saying his is like 1 out of 5. I'm being conservative and going 1 out of 10. But again, compare that to direct mail. And I can remember Charles, my numbers, I think we were ranging between 1 out of 60 to 1 out of 80 direct mail calls to be a deal. It was high.
It was, I think, yeah, when we did it, I think our numbers were something like 80 to 90 even.
Yeah. So it's high. So by comparison, you can go 1 out of 80 on direct mail. It works. You're just going to have to, do a lot of sifting and filtering to get down to the gold. Or on the radio side, what we're saying is it's much easier to get a lower call volume, pick up those deals, particularly if you're new. You're trying to get out of the rat race of working a 9 to 5. You want to be a full-time investor. The last thing you need to do is launch a marketing channel that just ends up being a second job for you. Right. At least on radio, it's small call volume. When your phone rings, it's radio because you programmed it to tell you that, and you're taking a low call volume and picking up those deals. So I love it. So if you're listening, couple things. First and foremost, if you always want to put a face with the name, go to YouTube, subscribe at Chris Arnold Real Estate. And we're always dropping additional content over there that we're not doing on the podcast. So definitely join us and subscribe to our YouTube. Secondly, at this point, we just bring student after student at this point, seeing success with it. I was so excited to roll out radio. Charles, I don't know if you've ever taught anything, but this was kind of one of those things I had in my back pocket that I knew was a game changer. And I kind of held it back. Does that make sense? And so I'm excited to share it because if you're going to teach something that you're passionate about and works really effectively. And radio is one of those things. It's one of the most effective tools, kind of resources that I've had in my back pocket for a long time. So again, you got to check to see if your market's open. I can't remember how many students we're up to at this point, but I know that markets are sold out. But again, do due diligence. Book a call and see if your market's open. And you do that by going to wholesalinginc.com/REI Radio. Again, that's wholesalinginc.com/REI Radio and book a call. See if your market's open. So Charles, wrapping up again, people love these because they want to be able to hear the authentic story of if something working. And I get it. I get thrown ideas and concepts all the time, and nothing worse than picking up something to find out it doesn't work. Right? It's like, oh, that was a waste of time and money. So your stories and you coming on just help students go, okay, this is the real deal. But if someone's still on the fence, Charles, and they're like, man, should I do this radio thing or should I not? Maybe I should go after another marketing channel. Maybe I want to do X or X. What would you say to that person that's riding the fence? What would you tell them about radio to help them make that final decision?
Well, it's been enormously successful for me so far. We've tried a lot of the other, ingredients in the cupboards, and they haven't produced the results that radio has and the ease of it. So not just results, but, we're talking a very, focused call volume of people that are very motivated. You're the only, it seems like you're the only man in their living room to negotiate with them. And just the consistency of just, pushing a button and letting it go. And it's awesome.
So the phrase I hear you saying is, I'll boil that down. I feel like Charles is saying, man, look at radio because radio is easy money, right? It's easy money.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's how I'd sum up everything that you just said there. So awesome. Well, Charles, thanks so much for coming on, buddy. Appreciate you sharing the story. I know it will help people. It'd be inspiration as everyone's trying to figure out how they want to pivot for 2020 and get ready for 2021. So thanks for the value that you shared today.
You bet. We'll have to regroup in about a year, and I can tell you about
Absolutely. We'll definitely circle back. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So to the rest of you, thank you guys so much for joining us. And until next time, we will catch you soon and add more value. Talk to you later.